Hello and welcome to another Talking Dogs on Monday. And of course, we are once again talking all things BOYLE Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. It's that time of year. And of course, the blue ribbon event reached the third round stage at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. For the first time in this year's competition, all the remaining competitors in action on one night. Tommy, there was sadly, however, lots of action in the week prior to Saturday night, and we lost the Buckley's Diamond Toolmaker King. But thankfully, Saturday night went through without basically a hitch, and I think it was a night of racing that the Derby really wanted and needed. And like I think I said it last week, I think the Derby has really come alive. But I think that run, the battle between Proper ARS and Cheap Sandwiches, sort of just kick-started this competition.
It probably did, Ian, because it badly needed it with Buckley's Diamond, being a non-runner. That was really unfortunate. It takes a lot to make a king. It took a lot from the Derby, let's be honest about it. Without any of us ever thinking he was right at his very best yet, and it might have happened. He was doing 29:40. So, it took a lot from it. It needed something. It got that battle between Proper ARS and Cheap Sandwiches, which is important, and the fact that it's a British trained winner. I think it's important. I think it's good. I know we said last week we thought the price of
Huge,
8 to 1 was
huge.
with Bacchus Diamond still in the competition was a bad price. Or well, it didn't appeal to us, let's just say. I still think it's very good the Proper Heiress won that heat. And in fact, the fact that Cheap Challenges is still favouring the outright market tells what you need to know. People still aren't certain the Proper Heiress to do it week in, week out. Haven't seen what we saw in the second round. But also, I think, also very important to the Derby, um, sing along curly, Salah curly, sing along curly, where like a young dog going places, very little experience, and what we said here 2 weeks ago or last week, maybe I have a head like a sieve. If Ballymac stood to do a 29:30 type run, he'd announce himself as a proper Derby dog, and he did that. So it did light up. It did light up, and it badly, badly needed it after a frustrating couple of weeks.
Yeah, as I said, Kevin, in print, there was a void following the withdrawal of Buckley's Diamond, but a number of greyhounds stepped forward to really try and fill that void. Yes, you can talk all you want about the two September 22 Elps, Proper ARS and Cheap Sandwiches, and they deserve to be up the top of the betting market. But it was the young dogs that really sort of grabbed the nettle, really did grab the nettle on Saturday night. The likes of Sing Along Curly, Ballymac Stud, In Defeat. Glengar Silent really caught a few, caught the eye. There were others, but it's a derby now all of a sudden that has a bit more layer. It's more layered than it was, shall we say. Prior to last week, it was very much the established sort of order. Now the young dogs are starting to really show their worth.
Yeah, look, it happens in every derby, and I suppose it's always what sets the match to it. Everyone knows and is familiar with the experienced ones, and when they're still the ones dominating, everyone gets excited, whether it's in any sort of sport, whether it's horse racing or soccer or GA. You're always sort of getting excited with the newcomer coming on, the younger lads coming through, and it's the same in greyhound racing. And yeah, for me, that was nearly the most important part. Was in every derby I remember, there's dogs coming in that you're not familiar with, they're less exposed, and I know one of them that's probably not in the same age category as all the ones listed out, but really caught me was Shanballa Boomer. He's obviously a bit older, but I like coming up to the maiden derby. I know Tommy probably seen him plenty in Cork, but he really caught my eye in the maiden derby, and he's a dog who's just gone from strength to strength to strength, and he keeps getting those middle draws and he keeps dominating from the front. And this lad, should he make the final, come final night, we keep saying it. What wins the derby is a sub 340 split, which he's doing on a regular occurrence, 17 seconds or breaking it to the third bend, which he's more than capable of doing it. So yeah, look, that's the exciting part, and we got to see that on Saturday night. And then the cherry on top was obviously the buckle of the two boys, Proper ARS and Cheap Sandwiches. Like, it was just phenomenal race, and uh, allegiances went out the window. It didn't matter whether you were Irish or UK or just as a Greyhound fan. Do you know what I mean? If that didn't get you going, like, it was two Greyhounds at the top of their game, going head to head, nothing given, nothing asked for, and do you know what I mean? That's the sport we love at the pinnacle. So, look, bring it on again next Saturday night. So, it's warming up nicely.
Yeah, it sure is warming up. You said there about Proper ARS and representing the UK and whatnot. On a separate matter, Willie O'Connor rang me yesterday. And he was looking for a foster mother, of course, the breeder of proper
Mm.
ARS. And you think, oh, the UK Challenger, the UK Challenger. You forget that Willie O'Connor's down there in County Kilkenny screaming his
Yeah.
head off for proper ARS. He tells me he has more pups on the ground, so he's open for business. But proper ARS, I said to him, did he always stand out? He said, well, listen, he said, I started him in that unrace takedown in Scarthy. He wasn't fully right for it, and you saw the runs he did. He said, sometimes dogs just stand out. He said he stood out from the very, very start. I think everything he's achieved in his time since Willie has backed that up. And as Irish people, we obviously believe that our dogs are the very, very best. But Proper ARS has come over here, and we said it in the first round. He ran well. He ran very well without sort of probably letting himself down fully. Last week, we're probably right in our later assumptions that maybe the track just it was he got stuck in the mud because on Saturday night he was a different greyhound, and for him to go with cheap sandwiches and for the two of them to run so well, it just brought everything to life. It just added something that we needed, a bit of spark that we needed. Like it also is worth pointing out that this was the heat in which Bocco's Diamond was to run in. And rather than going, oh, isn't it terrible that he wasn't there and we were going, what a buckle between two proper greyhounds. And that's what we're in the sport for. And fair play to all involved for making it happen, to the MWD partnership, and of course to Mark Wallace for bringing over proper ARS. And of course, Sid Hewitt. Have to mention Sid. He's up there with Brendan Matthews and Damien and Plunkett and co. And I'm sure he's having plenty of chats and plenty of cups of tea and whatnot, but he's looking after his dog and he's away from home. So fair play to all involved. Let's get into it because I'm sure Pat Buckley is going, hang on a second now. You're after mentioning Curly and you're after mentioning Silent, but you never mentioned Unanimous Leo, who started the night in wonderful fashion for Pat Buckley, who had a tremendous double and another one of the young dogs that is definitely stepping forward. I said it to Kevin on Saturday night, Tommy. You look at his record prior to the race, it was 10 races, 3 wins, 4 seconds, 3 thirds. He's never been out of the frame. He's been in 2 competitions prior to this. He's won the Champion Open Run race down at Kilkenny, which is an unbelievable guide to future success. And of course, he was second in the Juvenile Derby, only picked up in the latter stages. And here he is improving through a Derby, 3:35, 17:14, which I thought may well have been faster to the eye, and 29:58. This was the type of run from a greyhound that it would not be a surprise if you saw him going even faster in the future. He's going to need to repeat that 3:35 in each of his next few runs, but he's definitely a greyhound that has he's found an extra gear, I think.
Yeah, look, he's definitely stepping forward, Ian, and that sort of potent early pace and the ability to be consistent at traps at that sort of level is vitally important if you're going to qualify. I mean, maybe he hasn't excited us because he hasn't done a flashy clock. I did worry watching this heat, I'll be honest. I was watching this live. I did worry. I thought, oh, I don't like this at all. There's something funny about the heat. Like Magical Sapphire never got going really until the last 50 yards and ran the most remarkable race to be beaten 2.5 lengths. I mean, phenomenal. If you stopped at halfway and said to me, Magical Sapphire's out of the Derby, I'd have said, yeah, that. If my feet had cut off and I text you after and you say, oh, she finished fourth or fifth, I'd have said, yeah, that seemed about right. How she was beaten 2.5 lengths, I'll never know. It was a remarkable run. And I would take her out of it in one way because Unanimous Leo, he can improve on the clock, but he's going to have to do it. He's going to have to do a bit more mid race and home, obviously. But he's just, at this stage now, you're getting to the point where you need the 29:30s on your card to say, I'm a real Derby contender because it's not going to get any easier next week or the week after. So it's a really, really good run. But Magical Sapphire caught my eye.
Yeah, I think she caught Minnie's eye. She certainly caught Kevin's eye off the last bend, I'm afraid, because he was keeping an eye on Lenny's Madge on her outside. And as you said on Saturday night, Kevin, it came down to a case of it's either you or me going to get this run. And she said, I'm getting it. And that was that. Ballyhooly Bruno, he's getting there. He is getting there. He's definitely running better with each week. He was the third qualifier. Magical Keith went out, No More's 50s went out, and Lenny's Madge went out. Magical Keith and No More 50s, once they didn't lead, they were always going to be vulnerable because there was 3 really strong runners in this. That's how it went about. Lenny's Madge, again, she looked like a real player off the sort of going off the third bend. But Jen, just when she was going for that run around the outside of Magical Sapphire went, no, that's my line. I'm sticking with it, and I'm going to qualify here. But as Tommy said, Magical Sapphire, big run in defeat, and Ballyhooly Bruno qualifying in third.
Yeah, no, I'm with Tommy. I'm really impressed here, but it's actually with the winner. I am, and it only dawned on me. I suppose not even for Saturday night. I was watching the heats back again yesterday, and look, I'd say Pat's number one. Obviously, went out with Ballinabulla Joe a bit later on. I know Pat. I think has four left in it. I think this is his best chance. And I'd have been a million to one to have picked him coming into the Derby. I would have given him no chance. From what I'd seen him in the Puppy Derby, how short running he was in the 5 to 5. Now I know we keep saying it that you know if you get 5 to 5, you'll get the Derby 550. But I thought this was a big step up for this lad.
He's definitely strengthening up though. Like you can see
In a
the
week, in a week, even I know I picked up solo and go that night, but like that to me, that was just two non-stairs in that race, just not
yeah.
getting home rather than anything else. But I come back to, I think Tommy mentioned it there, so his consistency at boxes. This lad is just like you said, there was magical Keith, no more 50s, and this lad, it looked on paper that one early pacer was going to go through in two stairs, just because two early pacers weren't going to lead, and two of the stairs were going to they were going to be spread eagled and they were going to get clear runs at them. So it was a matter of which early pacer would lead and which two stairs would turn in the best position. That's how I read the race going into it. It did transpire similar enough to that, but I didn't think this lad would do that run coming. Like I did, like I was surprised when the 17, 19, 29, 58 came home, and I know he's probably coming home in about 12:30 or whatever. Like I think that for
12:44.
12:40, I think that's enough for him because he is so consistent at the boxes. He is so regular around the 330s. Like if this lad does a 341, which is good by normal standards, but that's a misbreak for him. Do you know what I mean? He regularly does a 335. And I know in the aftermath of the thing I was making a comparison, not in racing styles, or I'm not nearly saying he's as good as Bocco's Diamond, but Bocco's Diamond last year had a very similar trajectory and career path that he started in the Red Mills, went to a puppy competition. Bocco's obviously went to Cork, and Unanimous Leo obviously went to the Puppy Derby and then into the Derby. And I just think the trajectory of this lad is really on the incline. And the reason I say I think he's past number one, like what Singalong Curly did, like he'll have to repeat it for me a couple of times to for me to bank on him being able to do 333s. Glengar Silent has way more ability and power than Unanimous Leo, but is he consistent enough at the boxes? Happy Jet, is he consistent enough at the boxes? I have no fear when this lad goes into the boxes. It doesn't matter if he's in trap one or trap five. He's capable of doing a 334-5, clearing the bend, and he's coming home. The one thing I'd agree with Tommy, he probably needs to do a little bit more down the back. I'm not just sure in the 17, 19 look quicker to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe the first race, maybe it wasn't as quick as I don't know. But everything I've seen in this lad in the Puppy Derby, seen him in Kilkenny, seen him in this Derby, I think this lad's capable of doing a low 17s to the third bend. And if he's able to come home in the 12:35s or whatever he's coming home in at the moment, that'll be enough because he's so consistent at the boxes. So I think I was really impressed by him. On Magical Sapphire, again, only something I realised on Sunday when I watched back, like what Tommy said is correct. And forget Lenny's match for a minute, she's out. But Ballyhooly Bruno is comfortably in front of her going into the third bend. And like
Yeah.
she swings wide, has to bump off Madge, and she still beats him. Like forget the winner, like she picks up Ballyhooly Bruno, like the winner of the 600, do you know what I mean? Like that was an absolutely phenomenal run. Like if Magical Sapphire and Ballyhooly Bruno are in against each other most nights, I'd be back in Sapphire to be in front of him at the third bend. And she wasn't. She was behind him. So for Ballyhooly Bruno, I thought he paced up a lot more. He's coming. We know that. I'd say Tom is just pushing water up a hill at the moment. I'd say it's probably he's probably behind the eight ball with the injury, and I'd say he probably can't push him as much as he'd want to. But look, he's still there, and he's in the quarter final of a derby, and he's there in his class. But I think there's a lot more to come from him. But again, really taken by the winner. I think he's a bit of value out there as well because, like I said to you, there's certain dogs here that had a bit of a profile coming in, plenty of hype around them, and others just simply haven't warmed to. I think this is one of them that's flying under the radar. Definitely was for me anyway. But I like him. I think he's going the right way.
It's only fair we always give stud dogs a mention here. Glengar Bale from a very small crop of bitches has thrown a few fast greyhounds, and I love the way he is throwing a load of early speed. I know Nice Mysteries are very proven dam and whatnot, but Glengar Bale still has to throw them, and I really like some of his progeny. I think he's going very well, and this is very much the first crop. On to Heat 2 and a double. quick double for Pat Buckley. This time a son of Deirdre Sydney is English Derby champion, and Sing Along Curly, who was Salah Curly, of course, now owned by the luckiest owner in Greyhound Racing, Gilbert Anderson, and this was all very straightforward. Popped away, made every inch of the running. If I told you this dog had 35 races, you know, there was nothing he showed that wouldn't sort of suggest otherwise. This was only a sixth start. You look like an absolute old hat. Popped out Tommy, made all. Just a dog that seems to be going places. Obviously, a half brother to a finalist last year, Sing Along Dolly.
Like if you can, if you are having your sixth career outing, I think it's sixth, was it?
Yeah.
And you can come out from the bars in the third round of a derby and be 3 to 3.5 lengths clear at the line the first time. I mean, that's what it looked like. I don't know what the actual was, but it looked like that. At least 3 lengths. It was phenomenal. Now, it's a bit like the previous winner, Unanimous Leo. Um, the clocks aren't there yet, but of course with six runs under the belt, I think they can come. I'm a bit like Kevin on this one. You know, I want to see it again because you're not going to be getting a big price about the dog now that he's coming along, kind of doing well, winning third round heats with a bit of a swagger. Um, I mean, yeah, it didn't happen for Ballymore. Joe Blassoff Heifer does, but Blassoff Heifer does get a little bit of trouble, flew on, stayed on well and whatever. The other Wild, not really surprised with the run, unfortunately. I think he's a dog that will continue to fall down the line. But like, talk about a race being over in 3 or 4 strides. And you didn't have to do 29:30 to win on the night. And I'm always interested, and I always bring it up because I never know for certain. I don't know the answer myself, and I bring it up. But like, I do think, the track changes over the course of the night. The,
It's something that has been
well, the times where
it's
it
it's
starts
something worth
fast
keeping in
and
mind on
slows.
that the first couple of races most nights haven't been flying. Now with the obvious exception of Bombay Pat the previous week did the fastest run of the Derby
There,
39:15.
see, there are times though. There are times when it goes in the opposite direction. It starts off fast and gets a little bit slower the night goes on. Obviously, that can happen, but I think at the moment I'm kind of erring on the side of it not being flying early on. Um, like I don't know what single on curly can do in terms of long term, but you can't help but be impressed with what it's doing so far. And I wasn't surprised at that run. I just really liked the run the previous week, even though the clock wasn't tremendous or anything like that. I really liked the run the previous week. Um, the way he came out the other day, my only concern is can you do that again? And I hope he can. But it was so good. It was so ridiculously professional that you just wonder, my God, for an inexperienced dog with, you know, in hot company and get a draw in trap two. I know it's not next week. Get a draw in trap 2 or 3 and in against early patients. What happens then? Real early patients at the deep end of the derby. So there's questions to answer, but you'd love to own single on curly and be in there with a chance with a young pup. And even if it's not this derby, it's something down the line for a dog with that ability.
He's 5 wins from six starts now, Kevin. So like the numbers are telling you he can do it again. Yes, obviously three or four of those runs were in unraced company and whatnot, but like he can do no more, I suppose. 3:33. I think that's the fastest of the Derby thus far. So he absolutely rocketed from boxes. As Tommy said, it was over after 5 strides.
Yeah, no, I was saying too after rest, I think it's up there with the fastest that was even done last year. Like we were talking about how quick the early pacers were in the Derby last year and how fast the track was then. Like this section of it would be
Well,
stand.
even if you take it like Bocco's Diamond in the semi final last year, like the single most perfect racing display that many of us have ever seen. Right, he does a 3:27. Now, if I told you single on Curly in his sixth ever start on a
Mm.
track that's probably not running as well as it was a year ago, it was only going to be 6 spots behind Bocco's Diamond to that first winning line. Like it's not a bad line of form.
No, and that's the point I'm making, and I suppose maybe the fact that Gilbert took him over during the week was why he improved a little and a half in the split. Just to say how good you watch him last week, he comes away running like he came away well last week. He's a length and a half
Mm.
quicker to the first line. That's the part I'm not suggesting at all that I need to keep watching him to know how good he is. I know how good he is. Is he a 3:33 dog or is he a 3:40 dog? And that length is vital. That's the length that I'm saying that I think Unanimous Leo gets nearly every time on 3:40 dogs. But this was breathtaking. Like Tommy said, his run last week was massively impressive. Forget the clocks. The run. just on the weekend gone was breathtaking. Like what Tommy's saying about him being three in front passing the first win line is 100% true. And that's how it looked. Like it's a long time since I've seen a dog come away and to do it from trap one, which I've often said in the past, maybe it's just the camera angle or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I always feel like the dogs come away better from the middle, or it appears that way. But like he absolutely lifted it out of the boxes, and to do 29.52 off of that, like to beat Happy Jet a couple of lengths, to withhold Blast Off Hefo and those, like they're fair markers in behind him and they never look like getting to him. He's 28.40 done in Enniscorthy in an unrest stake. That takes savage doing. Like I know people can say about Enniscorthy can be quick at times. Trust me, I've been down there enough times. You do you break 28.50 in Enniscorthy, you're absolutely lifting. So yeah, look, he's a pup going in the right way. Who knows where his ceiling is? And I think that's, I suppose, the exciting thing. Nobody actually probably knows, bar maybe Pat and that who've seen him in trials, knows exactly where this dog's ceiling is. Would it surprise you if he done a 29.30 next week and a 3.33 backed up again? It wouldn't surprise me one bit. So, but again, just in comparison to the other dog, what I was saying is I just know exactly what the other dog is in the boxes. This like can be a regular 33, 34 starter. I've seen enough of him in his races and especially in his car to know that he's powerful as well. This lad won't shirk the 550 at all. Happy Jet, I thought ran well to qualify. This is a dog who started in his car as well. Very inconsistent at the boxes, very hit and miss at times, and sort of similar to our own lad Romeo, where there's trouble, he tends to find it. And but I thought this was a big step up. I thought he paced up a lot better than he had been doing. A blast off FO, like the writing's on the wall for poor Ballinabula Joe out the second bend when he looks up and he sees blast off Hefo in front of him. I know he threatened into the third bend, but you just knew that Hefo was going to kick off the last bend and be very strong. And again, similar mold to Ballyhooly Bruno, those type magical sapphires won't set the lights out early on, but you throw them in a race where there's three, four early pacers need to lead off the second bend. They're looking out for where Hefo is.
Yeah, picking up the pieces. Absolute competition, Greyhounds, no question about it. Didn't happen for Ballinabula Joe, Tommy. I said to Kevin, I was watching him. Obviously, his colouring, it's easier to watch him, but in boxes, he's standing, 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 standing. And then at the very last second, tries to get down. And that's been his issue. He just hasn't made a start. And, I think they're going to have to probably go back to the drawing board a little bit with him because if he's not starting, he's not winning.
No, and you know what? It was a tricky looking draw in the whole lot, and but unfortunately, it was in keeping with previous runs. He showed a lovely pace down to third end, and trying to get involved and qualify and all that sort of stuff. But it's just a little bit in keeping with what his recent runs have been like. I have to say, I didn't think the other while was just he wasn't himself, but there were still enough signs of what he was trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
No,
trying to get into second place off the second
I
bend.
get you.
And
I get you. We know how well he's thought of. We've
well,
seen
he
in the past and the potential he has shown and the ability he's shown. And you got a sense through his Derby campaign that he wasn't far off producing it. It just didn't happen.
well, and the reason I say I don't think he was himself, and he will be again down the line, was that he was in clear daylight out of traps. It
Mm,
was there to go chasing the leader, and he just wasn't capable of doing it, unfortunately. And that's not him. He's better than that, much
yeah.
more early pace than that. And I like the attitude though. He tried to get into second, force away into second place, and get across even tight out the second bend and whatever else. So there were still good signs there, despite the fact that I think he just wasn't on his game on the night. But there'll be better nights ahead.
Yeah. Single on Curly absolutely winged out of the boxers. Just watched it again there. Like it,
Yeah.
it's remarkable. Like it reminded me of was it Seven Beach in the Race of Champions? Like he went
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely whoosh in that. Like that. It reminds me of that. It reminded me of Susie Sapphire at her very, in her pomp, when she used to wing out of the inside box. Like and there's not, like, I know he's black and whatnot and the coloring, he doesn't look like he doesn't look like he's much of a dog either. Like, he raced at 71 pounds the other night, but he even looked smaller. I don't know what it was.
Well,
He's
he
just
thinks so too.
compact. He's just a real beastly
Yeah.
greyhound. Something
Yeah.
about him. No, there's God knows where his ceiling is. We move on to Heat 3, proper ARS, another Enniscorthy graduate, Kevin. There was four of them that qualified. Obviously, proper ARS. You have Price's Romeo, Single
happy
on
Jet.
Pearl, And of course, Happy Jet, a proper heiress, certainly another Enniscorthy graduate a year earlier, albeit, and Cheap Sandwiches. They went toe to toe. But your own Barefoot and Song played a cameo in the early yards. I thought there was a chance that she could be an issue for a proper heiress. She winged out. She didn't quite get across him. But, another stride, in her advantage, she may well have done, but it was over after a few strides in terms of her challenge for victory because Proper ARS and Cheap Sandwiches raced by her. Proper ARS got first run in Cheap Sandwiches, and that was all important.
Ah, yeah, look, this was proper race, and just in reference to Barefoot and Song, she'll cut you off instantly from a box. She'll cut one off. But once they're 10 yards into racing, if there's something on her inside, she won't try force her way through.
Mm,
So I think to lead one of those, she'd have to be sort of drawn inside them. And now she'd be braver at the first bend when they're on her outside, but I've never seen her go up and at the corner try and cut in. But that's just her, and that allowed proper. Not, I'm not saying that allowed proper arrest. I'm saying it like he wouldn't have been capable of doing it even if she was trying to do it. But that just gave him a clear run at that first bend, and I said it to you, and even watching the race back, like I thought watching it in real time that Cheap Sandwiches had missed it, but where he appeared at the first bend, like he obviously didn't. It was sort of just the camera angle, I think. But like he roars up, like that was the thing I took from that race. I know proper race and Barefoot on Song trapped out and are pacing up well to the corner, but like to me anyway, it appeared that like the last 20 yards into the bend that Cheap Sandwiches had a length more early on the two of them. Like he just roars up on the outside. Now Proper Harris is brave at the corner and holds his line and holds the corner to not allow Cheap Sandwiches go around and take control of the bend, and then it's a race on down the back, and Cheap Sandwiches, like everyone will talk about Proper Harris and he'll get all the flowers, and rightly so. But like Cheap Sandwiches throws the kitchen sink at him. Like he comes at him at the third bend, trying to get around him, but you know that proper, like we know it from racing it. I know people were talking about proper race maybe not running the third bend. That's just the line in Shelbourne. That's how it always appears. It looks like the
mm,
dog on the outside is carrying that bit more momentum. But once Cheap Sandwiches didn't get by him at that point, you knew that once they straightened up for home, proper race would have that length, a bit more strength again. So it had everything. It really did. It was a proper dog race. Nothing asked, nothing given, and two greyhounds at the top of their game going shoulder to shoulder and giving it all they had. And look, you just want the two of them to stay in the Derby, hopefully all the way to the final, because no one can argue that the Derby final with these two dogs in it would is a better race, and they're both running their heart out at the moment. And look, Barefoot and Song, she's doing it for the mammies, as I said in our video. You know, she's a litter of pups, 12 months old. You wouldn't think it looking at her. She's as fresh as a daisy. Believe it or not, she's again not long out of season. She's thrown into water for the Oaks that she made the final of and finished second in, and she wasn't 50% ready. She was literally only out of being in season again. So, and I was looking at her the other night, like she's starting to trim down lovely, and I think there's another run in her. I think she'll come on again for the run. Like she's only 3 lengths off Cheap Sandwiches. Do you know what I mean? Like if you said that
yeah.
going into the race, you'd be over the moon with it. So yeah, proper race and over the moon with all three. And I'm just crossing my fingers that proper race in particular and Cheap Sandwiches can stick in this derby, because with these two in it, it's a better event.
Yeah, it was that type of race, Tommy, where afterwards you're going, great, we're after seeing that. Let them avoid each other now. We'll see them meet again in the final. Wouldn't that be lovely? You know what I mean? It doesn't always happen like that. Ask Cheap Sandwiches and about his association with Paco's Diamond. He was sort of sick of the side of him. Who's to say he won't build up a similar association with proper ARS? But a great tussle. The Derby needed it, and the reaction online on the weekend was there for all to see. People got behind this. People want to talk about it, and that can only be a good thing.
Oh, that definitely, it definitely going to Bearfront Song ran a hell of a race, actually, to be fair. Losing nothing on them down the back. Once they get the kind of 2 or 3 lengths on her, she kind of, it's only really in the last maybe 25, 50 yards that she may be losing another half length, 3/4 length, not a lot. Like, it's not like she's going to get caught, but the two in front were producing a race and a half, and it's what we wanted. It was almost reminiscent of Buckley's Diamond against Cheap Sandwiches on a couple of occasions last year. The only difference being that when you look back at it, have a look back at the semi-final derby last year and what Buckley's Diamond did to Cheap Sandwiches down to the third bend in
Yeah.
the semi-final, turning a length or 3 parts of length into 3 lengths, and then Cheap Sandwiches coming back again at the line, and it's just um it's fabulous racing. That's what it is. It's exactly what we wanted to see. As I said, we were talking about how we were against proper errors at the price and in the long odds book, but you know what? I don't mind that situation last week. There's a different complexion on the race without Bacca's diamond in it. It would be an entirely different race had he run the other day, obviously, and who knows what way it might have worked out. Bombay Pat getting knocked out, complete change at the top of the market, but. These are two that we want. I want involved. I mean, I'm quite happy for the likes of Proper Airs to go on and win a derby. We need to encourage the British Challenge. We might as well have them. The guys might be a lot of them might be bred here. They're coming back here to run the derby is what we want. So that's what I want to see. I thought Proper Airs had a chance of winning the English derby, and I think was it the first round. Was it the first round?
Yeah, it went
Yeah,
out the
knocked
first
out.
round, yeah.
Yeah, first round. I actually had a few quid on Proper Airs to win the English derby. Um, this is much more like the dog we were looking at earlier in the year. The dog that we thought might be a bit of a star, all right. And Chief Sandwiches, like Kevin said, I watched the race again while Kevin was talking about it because just to see exactly what he was saying about it. Chief Sandwich really did power up in the outset. And I think actually when I watched the semi final of the Derby last year, even though he was in three, I think, and Bacchus was in six, and kind of maybe slightly eased because Bacchus was coming across the line. This time he was going so fast, he came up and decided and wanted to cut a line across, not a tight line, but just wanted to cut a line across. And Proper Air was just preventing him, maybe just being there, preventing him from doing that. I don't know, but I suspect that dog is breaking 29 seconds in trials in over the trip. If he ever tries over 550, he may never try over 550. I think he's capable of it on what I'm seeing there at the moment. He is now, and there was no love for him prior to the start of the Derby, absolutely none. But he's one that's come back. He's built his way back to his best. Cheap Challenge is at his best now. It doesn't matter whether that's his fastest clock or not. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I'd say it's slightly slower than his fastest clock.
Twenty twenty nine
It doesn't
thirteen on his
matter
card.
whether
He's
how's he
29,
got?
he's 29-13 on his card.
Yeah, he's back at that level. He's
Yeah.
definitely back at that level, and that means now we've got a hell of a derby to look forward to for the rest of it because we were all worried for a while there that it might never take off, but it does take time, and you always worry about those things. But we've got a hell of a derby now, and I love the way Proper Eras won that race because Chief Sanders came up there, probably put a nose in front, maybe the third bend, possibly had the nose in front just coming around the last bend as well before it kind of got a little tiny bit of a bump, moved off, even if it wasn't a bump, it just kind of edged off as it's going to do as a wide seat and something that's chasing hard and gave away that little bit. But Proper Eris galloped hard to the line. It was absolutely fantastic stuff to watch.
No, listen, it was a wonderful buckle. It took me about six goes to get Cheap Sandwich's names right into the opening corner.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd like to thank Jonathan Kay for sending me a remix of it.
Yeah, we should put that in
5 seconds
here.
of me just doing G G G G G G G G G G. But yeah, what a tussle. Cheap Sandwiches 17-22 and 17-17 the previous two rounds. So you got a sense he was getting there. The other evening,
Yeah.
not leaving, going around the outside of the dog. He's doing about a 17:05. I reckon he was about a head or a neck down at the third bend sectional with Proper ARS who does a 17:03. These are two proper greyhounds. I think that I think my tweet. I was having a bit of fun with it. Proper buckle by two proper greyhounds, one by proper ARS, proper racing. Hashtag proper. But listen, let's see it again. That's what I want. I think Cheap Sandwiches is the right favourite purely because this is his home, Shelbourne Park and whatnot. And I think there's more excuses for him the other evening. Obviously, Proper ARS doesn't need excuses because he came home in front. But I don't think there's much between them. I just suspect that Cheap Sandwiches is coming there quicker, perhaps than Proper ARS.
Yeah,
But
you could
they're,
turn
they're,
you could turn
what?
that coin now the other side. Like Proper Rest is having his third or fourth look at Shelburne. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I think there's another length or two easily in Proper Arrest. I really do. Now, as I said on the clip that we did, that you obviously watch a lot more UK racing than me. I've obviously seen Proper Arrest and a couple of times. I haven't seen him the majority of his races or anything close to it. But I thought he won that race the other night fairly, fair. And like I know what Tommy's saying. The Cheap Sandwiches got the nudge and went wide off the last bend. That's going to happen every time.
yeah.
I've had probably more. We've had more wide seats in the Derby than most people. Just seems to be the case all the time. But you're always going to throw away that length of the bend. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
the
mean?
key,
I
I
think
suppose, so the key is you go. overall thing is the fact that cheap sandwiches is going to be in six. Whereas
Yeah.
there seems to be contrasting to last year, there does seem to be a lot more speedy, razor sharp types on the
Mm.
inside. Like even
Oh,
a
there,
Salad Curly doing it 333, Unanimous Leos, these types of dogs that are real trappy types, barefoot on song. Like what if proper heiress is in two and she's in three? All of a
Yeah.
sudden it's a different scenario. Um, I just think cheap sandwich is going to have the draw, and given
there
the fact that
are.
there's probably not a cigarette paper between the pair of them in terms of overall ability. I've seen, as you said, a lot of Prepper RS, and he is very trappy. And he's not a dog I've seen roaring into the corner, making up ground, whereas Cheap Sandwiches does tend to roar into a corner just the fraction more. But like again, there's nothing between them. And as you said, he won on merit on Saturday night. It wasn't a case of he got for it was just he won on merit. The inside line is going to be huge because he obviously is an inside seed, but he is more dependent on luck in the draw than Cheap
Yeah.
Sandwiches is.
But
That's
he
that's
didn't
the way I
like
see it.
he didn't fly out of traffic proper areas, and yet he did fly into the bend. It's just the cheap sandwiches was exceptionally fast into it. He
Yeah.
did fly into the bend. If you look at him, with barefoot on sound, breaking well and moving fast, he showed lovely pace in the bend proper areas. But the one thing I would say is I agree with you. While we were talking here, I was having a look. I think there's five wide seeds left, and there isn't a real specialist early pacer in there apart from cheap sandwiches.
Yeah.
They're all good dogs, but they're not specialist early patients with his sort of early pace. So even if he got four, he can't actually because they have to divide the white seeds, don't they? So if he got
Mm.
five against any of the seeds, he's fine. Do you know what I mean? And if in the semi final there's four of them left and he's going to get five again at worst. I mean,
Well,
he's going to have
he
his
could
draw.
get two, Tommy. Like it is possible.
In the five
Yeah.
seeds be
With the five
together.
in progress,
Well,
if
the
he
final in the
progressed to the
final
final. Yeah.
Yeah.
in the final he could. But if he did, if well, I tell you what, he's even if he got two with the five wide seas that are left, I fancy him to lead them handy enough.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
what the point that Tommy's making, we're going to see in the quarter final. He's in five, and
Yeah.
he's who's outside him? Kusan Pickles. Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like bar and
And
like in
he might actually break a fraction faster from five.
all known
Again, yeah.
form, even if he starts at a lesser start of his
It's
ability,
Druby,
he
Druby's
still lead
deploy
Kusan
isn't
Pickles.
six. Yeah, Druby's deploy he's up against.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move on. Heat four. It's hard to follow that up. As it was, Shanballa Boomer was probably the ideal candidate because after the drama and the excitement, we needed someone just to, right, boom, good luck, out in front, just do it professionally, and that's exactly what Shanballa Boomer did. I said it to Kevin, Tommy, on a couple of occasions at this stage. How he even qualified for a maiden derby is remarkable, given the fact that he had 20 races under his belt nearly at that point. But this dog is clearly just come alive this year. He just seems a different greyhound. The fact that he'd never won an AAO race prior to this year is remarkable because the ability he is showing, the professionalism he's showing, the consistency he has been showing is enough to really put him in there in the mix. 335, 1699. Yes, he's coming home in 1243. But if you're in front and the racing line that this dog keeps, they're either going to have to go through a very narrow gap on the fence or go around them. They're going to be going home in 12:20 to pick him up, and not too many will be doing that. If this dog is in front, he's going to be very difficult to get around.
Yeah, he is. But I think he's definitely a perfect example of a greyhound who's ideally suited to the 550, the makeup of Shelbourne Park, the 550 run. Absolutely ideally suited to everything it demands. We say it's about speed, and if you get 5 to 5, as Kevin said earlier on, you get 550 in the derby, and that's down to the makeup of the track as well. The track itself, the way it runs, where the traps are situated, the nice run to the bend, everything about it is fair and good and right about it. And Shanballa Boomer really appreciates that. He is a fast dog, but like I still think a 525 in Curraheen is a bit sharp, even though he has early pace. And yet you're saying he's not flying home over 550, and yet the 550 is suiting him because of the makeup of it, how it runs in Shelbourne. So look, I'd love to see Kieran Lynch win a derby. I mean, of course, he's a Cork connection, and a lad who's won a couple of laurels and things like that. And won laurels is in times when they were looking for, hoping for local winners of the competition. And you know, he was able to deliver. So I mean, he's an excellent trainer. Jeff and Dermot have been excellent trainers for a
Well,
long time. I'd
he's
love to
running
see
up
him
some
win it.
Shelbourne Tour
He
horse, hasn't
sorry.
One in Oaks and Shelbourne too, of course.
He's tremendously consistent. The dog, his lovely early pace, and I just think, look, when it comes to the point, which is probably next week, when you've got to probably do 29, 25, 29, 30, can he do it? I think maybe he can. I'm not certain. I'd like to see it, but I would love to see him progress deep into Derby. Even for those lads and for Kieran to have a dog in the Derby final would be unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. Kevin, he strikes me as the type of dog that is making the very, very most of his abilities.
Ah, he is. Look, I said it to Kieran tongue in cheek. I think I'm getting fairly fed up of looking at his backside because I'm looking at it just there now. His last seven starts in Shelbourne, we finished second to him, four of them. So he's but look, he's just gone from strength to strength, and he's another one that's capable of these 29, 30 odd start or 330 starts, 29 40s. And like I know, and Tommy is right that you want to be down doing sub 29, 30 if you can. But
Mhm.
like, if you can do 333 and 1705 to the third bend, and even if your winning time is 2940, like you said, Ian, taking the line he takes, you're probably going to have to be a 29-20 dog to get by him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, like he's going to force you to go around you. And if you're going to go up his inside, he might cut you off the third bend because he does stay that sort of almost middle course where he's not stuck to the rail. He's almost tempting you to go up his inside, but I guarantee if you stuck your head up the inside of the third bend, he'll cut you off. So, really like him, really, really like him. And to the point of what you're saying, how was he eligible for the maiden derby? And I'm not saying this is the point, but we've had plenty of them good newses, and I do think they get better with age. I think the majority of them, like a lot of the dogs I think of that we've had in particular of the good news is they never really set the world alight as young pups, but they just train on, train on, train on, improve, improve, improve. And he seems like one of them. He's just seemed to get stronger and stronger the whole time. I would have been suspect of him in the maiden derby just coming home. I just thought that I was watching Lenny's Dream and those behind him a couple of nights, and I wouldn't have her down as a stayer, and I thought she was making ground on him. But he definitely is just strengthening up. And again, in the unanimous Leo mold, he's so consistent. Like at this 335, like they're making these early starts look like the regular 340 odds. Do you know what I mean? So if your dog is consistently doing 334, 5, 6 in and around that region, they are going to be very difficult dogs to lead. And from a middle draw, I've never known an inside seed to get drawn in four more times and the connections to be probably over the moon. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you in another situation you'd be crying over keep getting in trap
Oh,
four.
you'd paint the black jacket on him.
Yeah, he would. He
Yeah.
just because I think his slowest starts have been out of the inside, and but any night he gets three or four, he's like probably sub 340 nearly every time. So, yeah, really, really taken by him. Really going the right way, and I'll only back up exactly what Tommy's saying in relation to Kieran Lynch. Like I'd be delighted to see Kieran win the Derby. Like for the ones he gets, he does a remarkable job with them, and he's bet us in a couple of finals recently in Cork as well at the moment. So we're due to get his number back, but he for the ones he has, he does an unbelievable job with them. Romeo back in second. I know you were particularly impressed with me, and you were saying to me, it might remind you of a dog we had in the past, like likes of Blake or whatever. I don't know if he
Mm.
has the earlier Blake, but I tell you one thing, this dog has improvement because like he's only coming in his court, like he's not nearly there conditioning wise. Ran well in Cork. A dog of Graham's actually beat him in a fancy time down there one night. I think he was doing like 20, low 28s, and he didn't get a clear run at him that night. And that was the first time I saw him, sort of seen him putting it together since Enniscorthy. He started off really well in Enniscorthy. He sort of went to miss then. But like what you were saying, Ballinabula Joe, I thought he wasn't anticipating the start. He was almost waiting for the traps to open and then, oh, I'll come out now. Do you know what I mean? And he's putting
Yeah.
himself behind the eight ball nearly every night. And he really brushed up on things in Cork, started getting, a bit of freedom and running at them, and he's carried that into this derby. And looking at him to think when you look at him and thinking he's doing 29 50s and 60s, I'd say there's plenty left in him. I think he'll have to be quicker at the boxes. Now I was delighted with how he went to the bend the other night. It was better than he had done in a long, long time, but he still needs to keep that going and go to the bend well. I think he's got a good makeup now next week, and he possibly could qualify. It'd be great if he did. And then Kusan Pickles, like we say, there's very little wide seas left in it. She's going to pace up probably fourth or fifth on the outside most nights. Stay wide, stay out of trouble. And like if you line up Unanimous Leo, Shanballa Boomer, all these early paces in front of her, she's rubbing her hands together because only one of them can lead. And whatever one don't lead will be vulnerable, and you don't want her coming at you. So great to see Curly still in there with her.
Yeah, she was nibbled again overnight. I just doing prices this morning. Damien had sent me the prices yesterday. She was 33s and she's 20s now. She's always one that's always been nibbled. They always like there's someone backing her. There's someone backs her
Mm.
blind. They clearly feel she's coming back to herself. I think she's going to need. I think she is a 33 chance myself. But we know how fast she is. But Price is Romeo. I am a big fan, and I agree with you. I think he's very much coming forward. But Shanny Boomer is the shortest of them in the anti-post market, and for a reason. He's just so consistent at boxes, and just love the way he's gone about it. On to Heat 5. This was the elimination of Bombay Pat. Tommy, we spoke briefly off air. This was a race where I had said to a fair few people prior to the racing, this is not the night to be getting involved in Bombay Pat at short prices. This is his first real test of the Derby, really trappy types. But on top of that, missing the kick, he probably did run a bit flat, by his standards. Like, he runs hard down the back straight, but he just never really looked like he was playing a part. In contrast, this was Ballymac stood standing up and going, I'm a serious Derby contender, lads. Don't ignore me. Lenny's Dream winged from boxes as she does. Ballymac stood, raced up to the opening corner, just ran around her like he was on scale electrics. And the way he hammered down into the third bend, he does a 16.99. It only takes it up on the opening corner, or even sort of one and a half. And for him to do 16.99 tells you all you need to know. Kevin, I know you have a foot in the camp. I don't think it's any secret that Shane and Liam really regard this fella.
Yeah, no, and he caught more than just Arrow. He actually, the sponsor himself was messaging me on Saturday night about something separate, and I just said wide open Derby now, and he said Ballymac Stud was the one that caught it, and he said the one behind wasn't too bad, but I'd say he was just trying to make me feel a little bit better mentioning Lenny's Dream with that. But yeah, no, John was even taken by Ballymac Stud. Ah, look, he was the one, that like we said, that you're looking for, of the younger brigade in horse racing or in any sport, and he ticks most boxes. I heard you during the week saying that, he was the value. I agreed. If I had a free bet going into the third round, he would have been the one I would have backed. Just because, look, Shane and Liam, they've made no secret what they think of this lad before the unraced um competition, and we've seen it throughout the early pace he had. I thought the week before was probably up until that point the best race he'd ever ran, where things just went wrong. And down the back, I said it to Shane after, I thought he was a million to qualify. I was expecting him, on what I had seen previously, just to fade out of things because he didn't look like he was staying. He stayed in behind last week, which told me Genie Mack, if he hits the front, he'll run through the line. And that's exactly what he did the other night. Like you said, Lenny's Dream absolutely catapults from the boxes. And he just roared up around her on the outside, and there was nothing else she could do. She stuck to the task brilliantly. I was delighted with how she ran. She never threw in the towel, and even
She's
for that,
very much in the same mold as Barefoot and Song, isn't she? Really
yeah.
trappy. Gets caught maybe for a yard or two early, but she really stays it out and she gives her all.
Yeah, I think me and Dad were having this discussion even yesterday, and I'm more sweeter on this one. I think there's more in this one. I think she might be a length just ahead of Barefoot on Song. Now, look,
Yeah.
I don't have to choose. I'm glad we both of them, but I just think I think there's more in this one again. Like she's only a maybe. Like I think she's been in the first three every race she's ever ran, bar the final of the Maiden Derby, and she was second in that challenge in Shanballa Boomer and hit the railing. So I think there's a touch of class about this lady as well. So for Stud to be only a length ahead of her doing what it took him to do. I'm over the moon with her, but I think the two of these are right at the top of the game for the younger brigade. And Rural Pest on Bombay Pass. I agree with the first part of your point. I thought that this was the race that he just couldn't afford to do anything wrong in because Ballymac Stud looked like he was coming forward. I know what Lenny's Dream is capable of. Rural Pest is trapping really well. So if he missed the break, there was a likelihood that he could turn fourth in this race. And this was not a race to turn fourth in for any of them. didn't matter, even for Diego. Not that he ended up counting, but Ballymac stood, got off the front. I knew Lenny's Dream wouldn't be stopping. And the one I was impressed with it was Rural Pest, just because I thought he'd been not windy in his last couple, but I thought he'd been out battled on occasions, when in good positions in the last couple of weeks. But he just didn't allow Bombay Pat past him. He stuck to the task around the bottom two bends and just it wasn't happening. And Bombay Pat stayed 575. He's won over the Winter Festival 575. But this was the night that Rural Pest just, to me, took a step forward and a bit more tougher, a bit more hardy, and that's what you want because we know he can do it from the front. But we'll talk about the proper ARS and cheap sandwiches race. I think this was, a close second in regards to talent up and coming and a proper greyhound that could go all the way. I think he's in the mold of what we've seen in the Laddie Dan the first year in his Derby. And look, he's not named stud by mistake. I'll put it to that way.
Yeah, I told you, he's been named after me. Tommy, is anything to add? It was a race. There was a lot happening, obviously, but hard not to be taken by Ballymac Stud.
Well, I talked about last week and said he was one of those ones with that X factor, that explosiveness that could of real quality in there. He's still not the finished article, obviously. He's still not
No.
the dog that's like I was going to say it earlier on when we were talking about the first heat and compare the two of them. Unanimous Leo will do the 3:30 whatever every night. But Ballymac Stud, you haven't a clue what's going to happen
Mm.
yet. But like that can come. But like if you want, if you put them in a two dog race, I'm back in Ballymac Stud every single night of the week. But if you put them in a six dog race, I need to look at the makeup of the race and factor in a lot of other things before I decide for him ahead of Unanimous Leo. That's the way it is with Ballymac Stud at the moment. But you've often seen these dogs, they're developing through a period like this, and this is the hardest place to learn,
Yeah,
and you don't. It's not very forgiving. But he is explosive. He is proper X factor stuff, and we said it. I said that last week. It's not after time, and we were hoping. I mentioned at the time 29:30. I wanted to see that from the likes of him to say, hey, you know what? I'm now a Derby player. Genuinely, you can talk about all the hype and all this talk about it, but I'm going to show it to you. That's what you want to say, and this is it. So 29:35. I mean, getting like he had a nightmare draw really the other night.
yeah,
Nightmare draw really and truly. And like Benny's Dream flew out and did nothing wrong. And he showed explosive pace to get by. I mean, and even as much as the pace, the tracking as well. Because when you're a relatively inexperienced dog trying to come up around the dog of Benny's Dream's quality and trying to get around on the bend and the whole lot, I mean, that takes a little bit extra. And the fact that I think watching it, even though Lenny's Dream was by him again before they got to the bend after the winning line, I think he found that bit extra up the straight, which is really what you want. I mean, when he's being challenged, he found that little bit extra. It's not going to get him all the way to the escape ever because he's just not going to be that type of stayer. But it was the first sign of him putting it together properly.
yeah.
And I think it's like you can look for things in the derby, and we might look back at when the derby's over and go, my God, go back to round three there and see the first two home. That was the key to the derby, and we didn't realise it at the time. Whether the key to derby is those two, or whether it's not saying the first two unanimously, Magic the Sapphire running such a big race. If it's that, there'll be a key that we look back and go, gee, maybe we didn't spot it. We should have taken more heed. But I think this is proper stuff. This, as much as the proper errors, well, combined with the proper errors and Chief Sandwich's battle on the night, this lit up the derby. This is what I was looking for and hoping for to happen along the way. And I'd say, if you're in the Hennessy camp, you're pretty damn happy as well. I think in
Yeah.
Henny's Dream, wow, a hell of a run as well. So, look, Bombay Pat, I don't think he was himself at all, and it doesn't matter what. Like you're saying, this is the first time he's this and the first time he's that. He was in the Derby semi final, missed the kick completely, ran one hell of a race, was diabolically unlucky not to be in the Derby final last. And I mean, he edged in and bumped Hello Diego early. That's not really him either. Like, I mean, he's a much more professional dog than that. When he got a very slight bump at the first bend, his tail was all over the place. He didn't look that he should have got as imbalanced as he was. He did show massive pace down to the third bend, or maybe more from the second bend to about two-thirds of the way down the back, and then it kind of petered out a little bit. I would say it's just a shame. I don't think he was. I don't think he was himself personally. I'm not saying it's because of the competition. It's because of the draws. Because of anything. I don't think he was himself. Looking at him, that's the way I would read it. Look at that dog.
No,
Looking at that
that's
dog, and we've seen plenty of them. But it's still look at. It's what happens in Greyhound racing. You get knocked out of derbies and you leave something behind. What's left behind is Ballymac and Lenny's Dream, two players.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I made a lot of the 1699, 2935, the fact that he won. But I think the fact that that 337 is now on his card is huge because it means he can produce it again. You know, if you've never got there, it's hard to say, oh, he can do a 337. He has done a 337, and that's something you have to focus on going
Go
forward.
back and watch this lad. Go
Huge
back and
fan.
watch him. Go back and watch him in his very first race. The 337 was always there. It was only a matter of when.
Well, he has the 2 seconds,
Wind
hasn't
out,
he?
yeah,
Has he
the
got two
two,
seconds
Oh,
for
yeah,
five
yeah.
two five?
No,
his first
with
his
204, he's 204, 205.
his first
204.
race in the unraced in Shelbourne was as close to perfection as you'll see in race.
Hmm.
He was brilliant that day. So it was always a matter of just when it was coming, and yeah, no, he backed it up there the other night.
Well, his first four
You
runs were
speaking about
206,
hindsight.
204,
Speaking about
205,
hindsight and
207.
whatnot, if you look at the final of that air conditioning, the Celtic cooling refrigeration air conditioning 525 final,
Say it again there.
I told the sponsor the other night. From now on, by the way, it's the CCRAC. Okay, but with some rubber magical major to quite the dead heat with him when you consider everything that happened. I think we'll be talking a lot about those two greyhounds in the future. I hope they meet on more than one occasion. We'll talk about Magical Major again in the future. Of course, he was one of the stars of the place on Thursday night. Let's
I
get
would
in.
say,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Ian, I just would say, like, with the point I was going to make, the 206, 204, 205, and 207, his first four runs, they're huge. If you ask me, every one of them is better than 337. This is only the start of what he's capable of doing. But, like, as I said, there is a point to be made. You're not sure that he's going to do 335 next week or 345 next week. You don't know. You don't know. But he has the explosive X factor. He really has. He's got the real touch of class that we wanted to see it. We wanted to see it being put together, and it's not even put together fully yet, but it's
Yeah.
getting there.
50 to 1 last Monday after we finished recording here, and he's now 8-10 to 1. We move on to the sixth race, and this was competitive to say the least. Oreo Ollie hit the front. Callaway 5 charged up into the third bend to challenge him. I just couldn't get around him. Oreo Ollie just said, no, no, not today. And in the end, they sort of rubbed shoulders a couple of times, and that allowed Druppy's deploy draw closer. He had the momentum off the final bend, got up late to win in 29.91. Tommy, I don't think there'll be a Derby winner coming out of this contest, but it was hugely competitive and entertaining.
Yeah, it was. Look, the what happened between the third and fourth ends was a key to the race. But Druby deploy time at 29.91 or something. You could throw a blanket over them. I think they come with the lines about 4 or 5 lengths from top to one. I wouldn't fall down if Druby's deploy was in a Derby final. I don't think he'd win a Derby final. I don't not suggesting for a second that he could back him even each way at this stage. He just couldn't. But I know the pace is there, and I wouldn't fall down if somehow he managed to find a way. There's a lot of as it gets more competitive, it actually suits the likes of him that can pick a way through and show their what's untold ability. I mean, he did 29.91. His ability is about 50 or 60 spots lower than that. Like he's capable of being in there, but it wasn't. Look at for a 5 dog race, it wasn't an entirely satisfactory race in some ways. Oriel Ali and Callaway 5 had a buckle, and Callaway 5 actually showed lovely pace to be honest about it after Oriel Ali led early, but they just cost us about 3 or 4 lengths coming around the last two bends because they were bumping and rubbing, both looking for the same line, nothing untoward, both looking for the same line, and Druppy's deploy picked up the pieces. But he has that type of look, and you know what? I'd say that Robert Leeson probably deserves a bit of luck in this derby.
I was just going to say to Kevin there, wouldn't it be typical after all the bad luck over the last 2 to 3 weeks that Roberts had if Droopy's deploy was to reach a Derby final?
Yeah, no, look, sure, I was talking to him afterwards, and I was having this exact conversation with him. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, look, like you said, and I said it to Robert, the only saving grace I can tell you, I barely remembered myself. I was praying one of them, but I remember the year of Tyre Bello and Tamna Rose making the final, and I think we could have had eight in the top 12 in the betting and just going up to Shelbourne every round, just boom, boom, boom. Like it was, there wasn't much talk going home in the earlier round in the Jeep on the way home, like let's say it that way. But like it was just every round we went up, two or three of the big uns went out. And Tyrabello and Tamna Rose, I think they were even short of entries, weren't even being put into the draw until the morning of the draw and ended up going in. And yeah, that was the bypass byway. The Ollie Bray Derby, and the two of them ended up making the final. So yeah, definitely stranger things have happened. I actually liked Callaway 5 in this race. I really liked him, and he's a dog that's just going under the radar for me, and I'm liking him nearly every time I see him. I liked him I liked him starting off, and then similar to the Romeo, just didn't seem to sort of just went a bit skew whiff there for a while. And I've just thought the last couple of weeks he's just starting to show flashes that I wouldn't be shocked if there was a 29.50 running him. He's he's improving his early pace sectionals. He'll have to. Orioli's very good to the
He's
bend, but
he's he's in three the next night with Lenny's Dream, lightning starter on his inside, Unanimous Leo, lightning starter on his immediate outside,
yeah,
and then throw in cheap sandwiches, the aforementioned Druppy's deploy, and a
yeah,
certain price at Romeo would be hammering down the back straight and home.
yeah.
It ain't easy. It
No,
ain't
and
easy.
it might not necessarily happen in this competition, but he's another one of those that sort of fits into the younger brigade. I think he's only a June or July pup. So but I like him. I think he's shown loads of ability. Oreo Wally, you'd love to have him. Like he's a great starter, and he mightn't be the fastest dog in every race, but I tell you one thing, he makes it tough to get by him. Like he's always sort of in the place where every other dog wants to be. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if the challenger is inside or is outside. He's always there, gutsy, tenacious, and he sticks to the task well. And
He's going to win a bucket full of races.
yeah, yeah, do you know what I mean? Oh,
He's that type of dogs. Get out in
yeah,
front and yeah,
yeah. No,
and
he's
you
tough.
could see him running very well. Let's say in the race of the champions next year or something like that. You know what I mean? He knows his way
Yeah.
around Tralee, obviously, of course. We'll move on to Heat 7, and uh, I've already been. If Carl Ramsbottom gets to a Derby final, I'm leaving the car home for a week. Like, never mind, never mind for the night. Um, we said about Gilbert Anderson, that cashback syndicate, Tommy. We have history with them. I definitely think they're up there with the luckiest owners in Greyhound training. But I'll tell you one thing: they have one of the most consistent and likable dogs in check for cash. You really could set your watch by this dog. 29.58 the other night. He's done 29.75, 29.64, now 29.58 through the Derby. I don't know if he will be going much faster, but he may not need to be because I'll tell you one thing: he's absolutely thoroughly professional. You give him his draw, and he'll run his heart out for you. He came in for strong support. That's purely on the back of the draw. I have no doubt about that. The laddie da again just seems to be remarkable. He's bomb proof in a sense where he looked like he was in trouble down the back straight. He finds himself checking off that second bend. You could see it happening a long way before it happened. But all of a sudden, Ballymac Tibet is in front of him in the qualifying spots, and you're going out now, son. But he waited and waited and waited. And when that gap arrived, he charged up the home straight. Kevin said it. It's about that cruise control. He just seems to have a higher cruising speed than he ever did. And when the gaps open up, he's willing to just up the gear and come through for second spot. And back in third was the remarkable Tarzan Masai, who, yeah, no question, he's not the dog he was last year, but he's remarkably consistent and chasing it into the ground. But again, Check for Cash was the winner and a deserving one.
Each just I mean, as comfortable a winner as you could get in a heat. To be honest about it, he was in control from the start. He's one of only two ground left in the competition. They're unbeaten in the Derby this year. Himself and Proper Heiress. Um, he does it. He does it. He does it so smoothly, so effortlessly. I thought, just a lovely performance. I mean, look at if you're talking about winning the Derby, we're not going to be thinking that. But I tell you what, the way he's going at the moment, and that was his best break so far, 3:36. He probably needs to maintain that
Mhm.
to continue to qualify. But like he's just a really, really good dog in at the peak of his powers. He's about 3 years of age now. Um, I don't know. I'm the laddie there. Laddie Dad's favourite to win his heat next week. Laddie Dad's not the laddie Dad at the moment. He's not.
If you
He's like a
ask me,
former
if you
intercounty
ask if you
footballer
ask me to, if
playing
you ask
junior
me to pick
football at the
out
moment. Is
if you
where he
ask me to
feels
pick
like
out
he's.
one of the 24 dogs that's definitely going to qualify, I will say Deladi Da. But my first instinct when I saw the prices were he's too short because he is finding one just getting away on him, and he just doesn't drive through the gaps like he used to. But as I said, he's running so powerfully. It's going to take a bomb to knock him out of the frame.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the Heat next week and say it's not a particularly strong, it's not the strongest of the quarterfinals. But like he's 11 to 8, 6 to 4 kind of price for it. I just don't think even though he got second place, there were aspects of it that you were saying, yeah, he's showing some of his old pace, but he's not showing it from start to finish. And kind of I'm kind of concerned about him that in terms of qualifying. I'm not in the same camp as you in that he'll definitely qualify or anything like that. Like he has been an absolute superstar. This is his third derby. Like it's ridiculous stuff. It's ridiculous how good he is. But I just didn't think it. I didn't really like the run the other night. I'll be honest about it. It was a step back. I know he got little bits of trouble, but it was a step back from what he had shown in the previous rounds. I'm just concerned about
Hmm.
qualifying.
Listen. I'll respectfully disagree with you. I thought it was a hell of a run again. Kevin,
Yeah.
where are we sitting on this heat? Check for cash. The laddie da and
You
Tarzan
know,
Massey.
you asked that question because you know I'm backing you. I'm all the way the other way. I'm for. I hate doing it and saying I'm on the inside, but I thought his run the other night was very very good. Off the second bend, not only does he, it's almost like the dog comes across in front of him. He sort of jumps over it or clips the railing or whatever, and he ends up shooting out, right? And not only that, it's Ballymac Tibet that comes on his outside and goes by him. And I was like, when that happened, I said, oh no. Like, because I want Laddie that to stay in this derby. I really do. Because, again, like I said about proper ARS and cheap sandwiches, it's a better competition with him in it. And when Tibet goes by him at that point, and it's check for cash on the bunny in front, it's Tars the Messiah. I know he's not the same dog as he was in second, and now Tibet has cleared him. And halfway down the back straight, I'm looking at the lady down fourth, and Tibet is his closest one. Tars the Messiah is still there as well. And like Genie Mack, he's going to have to get some. And like when he straightens off the last bend, it's not even third he gets up for second, and it's a convincing second. It's a half a length back to third. Like similar to what you said, Ian, about 24 runners. If someone gave me, if I was to price up just a dog to get to the final, I think I'd have the Laddie Dan early favourite. Like I just think what you said is right, and I know I said this on Saturday night. I'm not saying I don't think he'll win the Derby because something will do a 3:34 or 5. We've just listed 10 of them that are doing it at the moment in this Derby. So something will get gone, and it is hard to see him turning in a position where he can catch the leader. But like if I have to think of three dogs are going to beat him in a night to qualify, I'm just struggling to see it. I think he's just doing everything so effortlessly. Go back again to the English Derby final. It's not that long ago. Like he ran a remarkable race in that, and I just don't know how to keep him out of frame. I think I'm not. See, I suppose where I differ from Tommy is Tommy's might be punting or whatever. I just don't bet the dogs. So like it won't affect me if a dog wins at 6-4, 10-1. It doesn't bother me. I'm not saying I'd be lumping on him to win at 6-4, but I just think to qualify to be, I just don't see a world where three dogs finish ahead of him too often because if it was going to happen, it should have happened last week. When he checks off that second bend, his momentum is completely killed, and it's Tibet that comes by him. Like, and we know how strong he is, and the
Oh,
dog's a
but
full.
Tibet wasn't himself the other night. I mean, he didn't run the first bend at all. Showed pace down the back, ran the third bend well, didn't run the fourth bend well, didn't get by Tarzan Masai in the straight. I mean, Ballymount Tibet should be getting by Tarzan Masai. Tarzan Masai, as good a dog as he was, we all agree he's not the same as he was. He's had his issues and he's been fantastic for Jet Parnby. But like for Tarzan for Ballymount Tibet not to qualify from the position he was in, he can't have been fully himself in my opinion. He just can't have been. From the Valley Back to Bet that we know, been watching for the last number of months, would at worst finish second from the position he was in the third end, at worst, and didn't
The
qualify.
beauty
So
is
I
we can
mean,
both be
look,
right in this
wait,
argument. You know,
hmm?
the beauty is we can both be right in this argument. In terms of Ballymac to bet, you'd
Oh,
be disappointed for him not to qualify, but at the same time, the laddie dad still ran a remarkable race to qualify,
yeah,
or to
look,
even finish second.
even though Kevin's right in one way, I do think with that type of hat, a punting hat, but I haven't been punting this derby. I had two small bets anti-post, and I haven't had a bet on the heats or anything like that. I haven't been engaged that way. I had two small bets, and they both went out: Bombay Pat and Magical Major. But but there were two tiny interests. I couldn't get a handle on the derby beforehand, and I've kind of struggled to get a handle on it since. Um, but yeah, yeah, look, I'm as big a fan of the Laddie Da as there is, but I'm just not in the same camp as the two of you over that run the other night.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think the bet of the second or the quarterfinals is against the laddie da next week. When I saw the draw, I was amazed by 6-1 was available. He's now 9-2 best. Rural Pest, I just think is an unbelievable draw in five in that contest on the outside of the laddie da. Just if he finds us, trap and boots, just Ballyhooly Bruno, Barefoot and Song, Oreo Wally, Deladdy, our Rural Pest, and Hussein Pickles. I thought 6 to 1 was way too big about him. I just thought it wouldn't be surprised to me if he skipped around in front there. Rural Pest, but that's for another discussion. We'll move on to the last of the 8 heats, and very much like Salah Curly, this was over after a stride or two, Tommy. You know, Susie Sapphire and her pomp would have been proud of what Magical Mag did. Absolutely winged out 3:36, 17:14, 29:51. Very similar in terms of the clocks to the first two winners, Unanimous Leo and Salah Curly himself. Or a single on Curly, should I say. But Magical Mag just fractionally faster, 29:51. She is just absolutely loving life at present, it seems.
And look, electric pace, lovely, gone clear down the back. Like it's so good for so much of the race. It's so good. There's nothing wrong with 29:51. It's so good in full stop. But it did highlight why Glengar Silent will probably struggle to win a derby because there's a lot of ability there, but you can't concede it that much early. I mean, it goes back to the point we are making about other dogs earlier on. Kevin made the point about Unanimous Leo, how much he liked him because of his consistency of traps, and 100% agree with it because Glengar Silent and Unanimous Leo in a match is in a match race is a hell of a race. And Glengar Silent would probably be the one I would side with because I think there's a bit more of a kind of a it's not quite an X factor, but it's not far off it. But he's just going to have to do more early. He's got loads and loads and loads of ability. I mean, he's a serious
He,
dog, Glengar
he
Silent.
has
But like
he has as big an engine as there is in this derby, you'd suggest. But if you look through
pretty
his
close to a
card,
jack.
210 is his best 525 split going up fourth, and 350 the other night. You know, he's down as fifth in the opening corner now. He's probably a fraction better than that disputing sort of fifth and fourth at the time. But again, that's not going to cut it when it gets to the really serious end of things. But in terms of in terms of his potential, it's massive. Like I remember this fellow made his debut in Shelbourne, and Pat said to me, he said, "Listen, he said, this dog shouldn't even be near this stake." He said he is so backward. He said, "I literally what you see in his card is basically what he's done." Now we'd already a 28:31 and a 28:48 in his card, Tralee and Limerick. But he said, "Listen, this dog is so backward." And you know what? He did look it in the first two races, and he's come on, come on, come on. But he's still far from the finished article. So I wouldn't suggest that it won't come, but I don't think it's going to come now and quick enough. But I'll tell you something. If you're asking me for dogs to look forward to in 2026, he's right up there.
Yeah, I agree, and maybe it'd be a 575 as well, maybe an even longer run to try get your position early. But Magical Magda, let's not run away from her for a second. I mean, she's been in superb form, and she had a very short break about a month before, or a month or 6 weeks before the Derby, and has just resumed in the same sort of form. She's just running out of her skin.
Yeah, Kevin.
Ah, yeah, look, I was blown away by it. I fancied this one last week. Just completely missed the break in the first round, backed it up or put that right in the second round, and she took another step again. And like she'd some supporters, as I said to you, Ian, I watched this race up in your little box there, waiting to do our interview post race, and you always had the headset on, so you probably couldn't hear it, but the roar that went up when this what lady trapped was unreal. And I suppose it just goes to show again on the track. I know we were talking about the earlier races, track mightn't be quick, and then you see proper race to 29:20 and Glengar side or Ballymac Stud to 29:30. Like this lady was 2 spots quicker to the winning line this week. She done 3:36 this week, 3:38 last week. She done 29:42 last week. She done 29:51 this week. Like you watch her running, like there's no way you would have said that the run last week was a length and a half slower than it was last week. So I actually think that the runs from the bigger guns, the 29:20s, I know Bombay Pat did 29:17 last week. I think the proper ARS runs and the Ballymac Stud runs, like they were, I know we might be saying, 29:35, from Ballymac Stud. I think that was a even better run. I'll put it to you that way. Because my old lady done everything right is do 29:42. She's 29:37 on the open round. She should have been coming forward and she trapped better to come forward. So I know it might sound silly when you've seen a 29:27 and a 29:35 done the card. I don't think the track was bananas the other night. I could easily see them getting down to a low 29 second run, which I didn't think in the opening round. But Ballymac Stud and Proper Rest and those in particular, I think are more than capable of getting down there. But Magical Madge, she's brilliant. Glengar Silent, yeah, look, I agree. It's why I made the point at the top of the show. Like I said, I think it's undeniable. Glengar Silent has more of an engine than a Unanimous Leo or whatever. But in a two dog race, I'd be on Glengar Silent every day. But in a six dog race, Unanimous Leo doing a 334, 335, you can set your clock by him. Glengar Silent, a low 340s would be a good break for him. He's just that little bit maybe. But again, if he's young, he can find it. He can improve. Bit of confidence under the belt, like Magical Mag, she's 28 done in Shelbourne. Like she's not stopping, and the ground he makes up on her, after her start was very much eye catching. Phoenix Memphis, great to see Riley staying in, and great to see a Shelbourne regular staying. This lad, he never runs a bad race. He's probably up again it. In races where he's at his best is when he's on the bunny, and he's just finding it tough to get on the bunny at the moment in this caliber of competition. But like at the third bend, you can see him. They're all coming at him. They're charging at him, and he's cutting them off here and there. He just sort of got in everybody's way. But it was unlikely that he was going to qualify going down the back. Actually, with Wester Ross and Hotwood on his heels and challenging the third bend, but he stuck at it well. So great to see him qualifying.
Yeah, he was long odds against to qualify off the
Yeah. Oh
second
yeah.
round. Long
Yeah.
odds against, and to
Yeah.
qualify was pretty remarkable. It was a very tight photo finish
Yeah.
for third spot. Westway Ross is just failing. That's desperate. You don't want to be failed to qualify by a short head, but I'm afraid those are the breaks. Seven Beach never happened for him. Missed the kick. He had been under a bit of a cloud during the week, feeling a bit sore on himself, but just missed the kick completely and just didn't fire. I hope we see him again. I assume we will. I'd say he'll be given a chance to go out on a high. Wouldn't it be great to see him appearing at the Winter Racing Festival, fresh as a daisy? And we know that when this dog is fresh as a daisy, that's when he can really produce. So it'd be great to see Seven Beach back on the track again in the near future. Although he owes his connections absolutely zero. He owes them nada. We have spoken about him at length over the last while, so we don't really need to talk to him about him again. On to the four quarterfinals very, very quickly because you two have never shut up. The opening heat, it's competitive. Again, we're going to have a hot favorite in cheap sandwiches, but that doesn't really tell the full story. Like there's Lenny's Dream up his inside, Callaway 5, Unanimous Leo, and then you throw in the likes of Priceless Romeo and Droopy Supply, who will both be looking to pick up the pieces if they don't take a flyer. Cheap Sandwiches, no question, the one to beat. And I don't think 5 will be an issue for him, Tommy. He's undoubtedly the one to beat, but just the presence of Unanimous Leo is enough to give him a little bit concern early.
Well, presence of Lenny Dream is a concern for Unanimous Leo. If Lenny Dream breaks the way she did the other night, can Unanimous Leo do what Ballymac Stud did? I'm not sure.
Mm.
I would think that
It,
Lenny's Dream, like if she can
it'll be a
outbreak,
test of Leo, no question about it. Yeah.
it's a horrible draw because Callaway 5 can go into the bend as well. I mean, I know he's not doing the sectionals, but he has early pace. Look, I think Cheap Sandwiches it will win, and I think Lenny Dream will qualify. I think probably six Druppy deployment qualify too.
You'd like to see the two of them going through, Kevin. Would you take one right now?
Oh, of course, I'll take one. Yeah, Callaway 5 is a nightmare draw here. Because Lenny's Dream won't step left. If
Yeah.
anything, she'll step right, and Unanimous Leo is gonna step left. So the two of them will come together. Yeah, look, it's like you said, it's sort of two races, well, three sort of races in one. But Lenny's Dream, Unanimous Leo. Which one of them, will be in front of the bend? Cheap Sandwiches. I don't even think it matters if he's in first or second or third, even at the bend. I think, like Tommy said, I think he's very much going to qualify. And then I think it's who turns closer between Romeo and Deploy. Now, talking with the Romeo and Deploy hat on, you definitely would rather, you definitely don't really want to see Dream turn in third.
Mm.
If Unanimous Leo leads and Cheap Sandwich is second and Dream is the one in third, they're not going to get by her too easy. Do you know what I mean? So, for the play and Romeo, whichever one of them is going to turn, of the two stairs, whichever one of them will turn in front, you definitely wouldn't really want to see her turn. But yeah, look, it's wide open. I'll be hoping. My two are drawn the right way around anyway. Definitely. Lenny's Dream will take a step to the right. She'll leave plenty of room for Romeo up the inside. But look, people watching this aren't listening to me trying to figure out ways of me getting one or two through. They want to know who I think I'll win. And again, I think Cheap Sandwiches will win. I think Lenny's Dream and Unanimously will pace up. Cheap Sandwiches stay on the outside, and he'll probably just prove a bit too strong for the other two.
Yeah, onto Heat 2. Ballymac Stud will be a warm-ish favourite, but this is not a race where you can afford to make any mistakes, Tommy. It's 337 or bust, maybe. You know, like with Magical Mag on the inside, Shanballa Boomer there, and then a couple of strong runners just capable of picking up pieces as well. There's no room for error here.
This is like, look, if you want to win a derby, you're going to have to deal with this. If Ballymexton is a derby winner in the waiting, then he's got to deal with this. He's got to deal with Magical Mag's ability to break from the inside. Happy Jet isn't a complete loafer, but that shouldn't be an issue with Ballymexton. Shannon Boomer being a professional starter as well is kind of an issue. In terms of winning the race, I've kind of left 5 and 6 out of the reckoning because I don't think they're going to figure enough early or be in the way or do anything that's going to materially impact the early stages of the race where it's going to be decided. Shannon Boomer is so professional. I mean, Ballymac Stud is going to have to be a little bit sharp at boxes. At boxes, he has the early pace. I've no doubt about that. I just look. I'm going to be tipping him because I think he has that X factor, but like how he'll cope if he doesn't lead around will be interesting to find out. But I think we've seen more than enough last week to think that he's getting close. He's getting close to where he needs to be, and his explosiveness can win it. But I won't be taking a short price. I won't be having a bet.
Yeah, I'll copy and paste that, to be honest. Kevin, we'll let you go to Heat 3. Proper ARS is going to be odds on in Trap 1. Trap 1, he missed it from Trap 1 the previous round. He's got Singalong Curly in Trap 2, who's going to absolutely wing up. Check for Cash is going to go up strongly. Glengar Silent will be finishing like a train. Magical Sapphire will be finishing like a train. And even Phoenix Memphis, we know how well he can go to a corner. He's odds on, but this ain't an easy task.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not an easy task for him, and do you know what I mean? Like, there's no like if if the sing along curly dog does a 333, or even a 335, like there's no screaming early pacer in it. Do you know what I mean? Like even proper ARS last week, like the 343, first one the 344. I'd say the connections would take their hand off for a 343 out trap one again here. But apart from the sing along curly dog, you can't really see a one going away out in front. I just hope it doesn't get messy at the first bend. A lot of these could land at the first bend together. Now, what will work in Proper Air's favour is he's got the inside, and that will definitely work in his favour. I think Magical Sapphire, if you're, I don't know what price, I don't know the prices of anything. I think she will qualify from this race. That's my take. I do think she will qualify from this race. I just hope for the betterment, obviously, of the Derby, and we obviously all want clean racing. But I just looking at the makeup of this, like Phoenix Memphis, his sectionals would looking at that the sectionals would suggest that he's not a good starter. He's only broke 350 once in his last three starts. Like we know how good Phoenix Memphis is
Yeah,
to the bend. Like
he is 2 seconds for 525. Like
yeah,
that's
exactly.
really
That's deceiving looking at that. So these could all just land at the corner together, and I just hope it doesn't get messy at the bend. That's all.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the same argument as Tommy there. The X Factor argument is there with proper ARS. He does have the X Factor, and I suggest he will find a way. He may not lead on the opening corner, but he won't be far off it. And I think he'll turn in a qualifying position and probably just be too good for them. Move on to Heat 4. Tommy will lead with this. You've already suggested you're not massively supportive of Deladdy's ass chances from Trap 4. Ballyhooly Bruno, Barefoot and Song, Oreo Ollie, Deladdy that Rural Pest, who I've already made a case for, and Kusain Pickles. Where this is not one where you can be bullheaded, basically. I just felt that the price was there
No,
for Rural Pest.
no, but like what going on what I said earlier on about wanting to take on the laddie that just because of the price. I mean, I think I could probably take a chance with Kusain Pickles. I think Kusain Pickles has shown in the past that she can break a bit better, can turn a bit closer. You're very keen on Rural Pest. I can understand it to a degree. I'm not the greatest fan of the Greyhound yet, and what I've seen so far, I'd like to see more from Rural Pest. I just think it's the type of race that Rural Pest and Oreo Ollie being a decent breaker and an early pacer, and there's pace inside. Even Ballyhooly Bruno, who isn't a natural early pacer, is breaking quite well. If the laddie that doesn't fly out, and he can show a class and go and win the heat and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's a draw, fraught with danger for him. I think you're right. I think we're both right. You need to kind of concentrate on the outside for the value. It's either 5 or 6, and I'm just a bigger fan of Kusain Pickles than I am of Rural Pest.
Yeah, Kevin will be praying that Barefoot and Song takes another winger from traps. Oreo Wally won't probably get a chance to move in on her. If she clears Ballyhooly Bruno, she's a strong chance of qualifying, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying it now because I have her hat on. Like, and I read the race the way you are. Like, I wouldn't like to be backing the laddie da short odds to win. I think you will qualify. I very much think you'll qualify. But and I'm sure Barefoot on Song, she always is. But I'd imagine she could be double figures. I love this makeup for her. Now, look, she has to go and do it. But as I said earlier on, when there's something on her inside, she's not the bravest at cutting them off. When she's the rail and something's on her outside, she's a whole lot braver. And for her to qualify or for her to win or whatever, she'll have to do a low 340s or 338. So if she does that, she'll clear Ballyhooly Bruno. So if that happens and she grabs the rail, which she will, she'll step left straight away. I think Oreo, Ollie, Roll Pest, they'll have a job to get around her at the first corner. And if she turns into the back straight with either of them, I think she'll hold them. So, and I'm sure she'll be 12, 10, 12, 14 to 1. Now, if the laddie dad goes up and turns on her, on her tail or whatever, or gets a run at her, he'll pick her up. But she'll be a big, big price. And like you're looking to take on the favour from a win point of view. Ian's gone Roll Pest. Tommy's gone with Kusan Pickles. I'll stick with the mammy. I'll go with Barefoot on Song.
What wins the derby, Tommy?
Okay.
Hmm?
I honestly don't have a clue. Cheap Towns are probably. I mean, he's going to get a good draw most nights, and I think he's morphing back to where he was last year.
Kevin?
He's very close to us, if not
I think the laddie that'll be in the final. And if I had to pick a winner,
at it.
I'm going Team Ballymac. If I'm just being honest, I think he will. I don't think he'll be able to win it. I think something will get loose, and I think the one that could get loose could be Ballymac stud.
Oh, I'd love if Ballymac stood did 29-20 next week and we had a proper dog, a dog that we could talk about in the same breath as we've been talking about Bocca's Diamond for the last while. I would love it, and he'd come out and win the derby. And I'm not going to recommend anybody back cheap times at 5-2. I mean, that's not going to be it. That's not even a sensible thing to do. But I would love something like that. That, like you said at the start, Kevin, about we all love, the young dog coming through. It's the same with the horse racing. I love watching 2-year-old races because you're looking for the next superstar. And then if something develops like a Frankel or whatever, you can enjoy that for a couple of seasons while you're still watching the next 2-year-olds thinking, where's the next one coming from? So I want something like that. That's what I want. I want Ballymac Stud to come out and do 29-20, 29-10 next week with a 333 and massive early pace. And you were talking about sectional D next week and talking about 1690 down to third bend and all this sort of stuff. That's what I want. I want it to be lit up even more, and I think it can be.
Yeah. Fair play, lads. There's more that has to
What's
be
your
said.
pick? What's your pick?
I'm on 50s Ballymac stud. That'll do me.
That trumpet is getting bigger every week.
Any excuse.
Right, gentlemen, a pleasure as always. That's it, folks. The Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby will continue at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night with the four quarter-finals. Well worth a visit if you haven't been there already this year for the Classic, but of course, all roads lead to September 27th. My thanks again to the exiled one, Tommy Lyons, and of course, the child, Kevin Hennessy. But that's it for us here this evening on Talking Dogs on a Monday. We'll see you next time. Good luck, good evening, God bless.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.